Hello and welcome to the Skating Lesson Podcast. I'm Jennifer Kirk, a former U.S. ladies competitor and a 3-time world team member.
I'm David Leese. I've never done a triple-triple, but I am a figure skating blogger and a current adult skater.
And in this video, we're going to talk about the pairs in the dance event at the 2013 Four Continents Championships, which took place last weekend.
Oh, Jenny, I am really excited for this conversation. We haven't discussed how we feel about the dance event yet, and I feel like we were watching a black and white film and the heroine came in at the end. Ready with smoke rings, nice vodka. Meryl's hair was down and Garou was singing, Dance Moon Esmeralda. Tessa and Scott had those lifts and that groping to Carmen. And I think
all this sexiness.
Yes, let's get into it. So, Meryl and Charlie did win the gold medal at Four Continents. Tessa Virtue and Scott Moir won the silver. Madison Chock and Evan Bates won the bronze. And then Maya and Alex Shibutanis finished in fourth place. So we haven't discussed the programs yet. What were your impressions of Meryl and Charlie at Four Continents?
I thought their free dance was just perfection, and I think the marks really reflect that as well. They were so crisp. It's the best I've ever seen them do this dance. And every single thing was on. The twizzles were on. They did have that bobble in the short dance a few days ago, which I think really may be why they were in second place, because overall I think also that dance may be a little bit stronger than Tessa and Scott's. But that free dance from Meryl and Charlie, just everything was on. They were skating to win. They had that fire, that attack, and it really seems like the momentum is in their favor heading into Worlds next month. What were your impressions?
Oh, I definitely agree when you said that they had the attack. I think that it was almost perfect for them to be in second place after the short dance, because the one thing I get about Meryl and Charlie is that they always seem like so lovely. They always say the right things, but they just have that look in their eyes like they go into every competition ready to attack. There's never any excuses. They go out there full speed. Their lifts are flying. She's twisting around him. They have such difficult transitions, and it really looks like they're hungry this year. They skated really well at the World Championships last year, and they finished a really bitter second place, frankly. I think they were really mature about their result, but I think that they were upset, and I think that the attack that they have this season in every single competition shows that they really want to win. And I get a sense that both top dance teams really believe that each one believes that they are the best in the world. Whereas maybe before they were competing, I think each one feels in their own minds that they are the best, and they compete that way. And I think that Meryl and Charlie are going after not just a gold, but they're going after 10s every single time that they compete. They had ridiculously high scores at nationals, and they backed it up with this performance. I think they had a little bit of a stumble in the footwork section of their short dance. Charlie was a little off, but they had really their game faces on and their focus in the right place for the free dance. And it was a really powerful performance. I think the drama and their attack and desire to win is a perfect match this season, because they really don't have to hold anything back. Last year they did a very light-hearted free dance that I think really kind of masked some of their attack. It seems this year they go full out, powerful, ripping at each other's limbs. They have that connection. I guess, do you feel that their connection has improved compared to last year? Because I personally get that from them.
I don't know if it's a connection that's improved. It just seems like, particularly their free dance, there's so much passion there, and you can tell that they're so hungry to get that world title. And I don't see that passion, that hunger, particularly from Tessa this season. And I know you talked about how both teams, it seems like they both seem like they really want to win. But in their free dance from Tessa and Scott, obviously they had the problem that we'll talk about where they had to stop their program here at this event. It just seems sloppy to me. It seems like you lose that passion halfway through. Their free dance starts off so strong. There is that passion. And then once they hit the slow section to the end, they never really regain that. And I think the strong point when we talk about Meryl and Charlie and their free dance is they keep that passion throughout. They keep the hunger, the fire, and then it also increases by the end of the program where they're skating faster, they're keeping up to the music. I also think that their spins are faster. I find their lifts and their free dance to be a little bit more just visually appealing, intricate. I do like the last two lifts in Tessa and Scott's free dance, but I think their opening lift, I'm not a huge fan of it. They do have great speed, but it just seems a little bit sloppy in that free dance. What are your impressions of the two free dances?
I think that they're both great programs. I will start with saying that I think that they both really took it up a notch for this season compared to last season, and they both are trying to improve. However, watching the programs a couple of times this season and just watching Four Continents, I feel that Meryl and Charlie's free dance has come together at this point in the season more cohesively. It builds, they have added little details to it, and I think that one of the things that has really improved for them is the fact that they've really been working on their weaknesses. In the past, those in the ice dance world, the other coaches, the judges, comments in the media of other federations, you'll always hear the mention how beautiful Tessa is on the ice and that their wonderful connection. One thing that Meryl and Charlie have really done is work on their connection. And I actually do see Meryl open up more as a performer. And it seemed that
I don't mean to cut you off. I agree there, but I don't think the connection between the pair is as strong as Tessa and Scott.
No, but I think that she's opening up more as a performer, and it felt like when they would criticize Meryl and Charlie, they were really criticizing Meryl for her lack of perhaps sex appeal on the ice, I think. And I think that her hair is down and she seems to be more open as a performer. Perhaps I don't think that Meryl and Charlie have the heat that Tessa and Scott do. I don't know what's going on in their personal lives, but when Tessa and Scott skate, they look like years of an on and off romance. Whether it's acting, whether it's real, I don't know, but I'm riveted by it.
And I think it's their personalities. Tessa is sexy. She just has this sex appeal about her. And obviously Carmen, it really brings it out. And I think Meryl is beautiful. She's understated in some ways. So I think that's really where, when you talk about their performance quality, it differs. But I do think free dance for Meryl and Charlie, it brings that out more than Carmen. It just comes across as a little bit sloppy to me.
I definitely see a problem with Carmen. It starts off so sexy. And I think after years of we had Tessa bringing this Audrey Hepburn vibe to the ice. And I think there was a lot of criticism last year that we had enough of it. She was always sweet and beautiful. And this year it's like a shocking 180 where Tessa's all of a sudden this villainess on the ice and she's groping at him. And it's exciting to watch. And the opening is great. It's powerful. It's eye-catching. And it's very different for them. It's a little bit more modern, a little bit more perhaps slightly avant-garde in areas, and then it loses it when the music changes and they go into the footwork and the step sequences. It slows down, and I think that the impact of the program, I think that if they skate cleanly and Meryl and Charlie skating cleanly, that they lose about a point in components and about not just the components, but they lose the crowd. And I think that the crowd, because these teams are so close together, has to impact the results in some way. And I think that they're losing the impact in that middle section, like you said, and they never get it back. To the end, it looks a little sloppy when they try to then build for the end. There's a disconnect.
And I feel like it just ends very abruptly. So before we move on to third and fourth place teams, Tessa and Scott, they did have something that we rarely, if ever, see in a skating event. They stopped their program midway through. We still don't know the event took place this morning, so perhaps when we do air this video, we will know exactly what happened. But what did you take of that? They were then able to go back and redo that lift. Do you think that was fair?
Well, I think it's very interesting. I think that there was a big thing last year where the results at Four Continents really were the same results at Worlds. Right or wrong, whether I don't know if anyone knows. Was there a difference in the performances? Were the results right? Was it politics? Was it the natural order of things in the dance world? One never knows. But Four Continents equaled Worlds. And the performances weren't the same. Tessa and Scott were actually really strong at Four Continents, and they had a few little hiccups in their Worlds performances, but they still won. And they won kind of convincingly. However, I noticed that every time that Meryl and Charlie skate really strongly, and Tessa and Scott are perhaps on the verge of losing, something happens. And I don't know if it's someone is psyching themselves out or what happens, or if ailments become bigger in their minds. But Tessa, I think the latest was that perhaps she had a leg cramp today. And I think 2 years ago, there was something with her hamstring where they stopped their program at Four Continents as well. They never have these problems except for when they compete against Davis and White. It could purely be coincidental that this has happened in the preview for the World Championships twice in 3 years. It is entirely possible that they're training hard at this point of the season, something happened. However, I think that the impact of this rivalry and the intensity of it, you really have to wonder, is something else going on here? Are these teams volleying for position? Do Tessa and Scott feel that perhaps they're losing their grasp on, because perhaps before they were always thought of as being the better team, and Meryl and Charlie were the challengers, and it seems like they're now neck and neck. And I don't know if perhaps something didn't go right earlier in the program, but one can only speculate, did something really happen? And why is something always happening with them when we don't see Tessa and Scott ever stop their program, any other competition during the year? It leads you to wonder. I don't know. She could be injured. I think, but then again, I think that all skaters competing at this level have aches and pains, have leg cramps, have something that's going on. And it's really kind of shocking to see a reigning world champion stop a program twice in 3 years.
I think it is a little bit suspect. Again, we don't know what happened. She may be ill. It seemed to me like she couldn't breathe or something. That's what the commentators at the event were saying. But I don't want to laugh about it, but 3/4 of the way to the program, most of us can't breathe anyway. I mean, you're winded anyway. You saw when they stopped the program, Scott was winded too. So I don't know, but she may have something more, bigger than that. But I do think that it's suspect, and I think that this season, it just seems with them, there's something is off. I don't love the free dance. I think, again, there's something missing there. The spins aren't as fast. I don't think the lifts are as crisp. There's even the last footwork sequence at the end. They're a little bit more hunched than I've seen in the past. They don't have that presentation to really showcase it. I love her dress. I think they look great on the ice. They seem to be in good shape. But I don't see this as a world championship winning free dance. And it will be interesting, though, to see with the World Championships in Canada if that plays a role at all next month. So let's move on. Do you have something more you wanted to add?
I just wanted to talk about the rivalry for 1 second.
Okay.
For so many years, there were articles that everything was great in Canton and that the teams got along really well and they just loved training together. Scott and Charlie played hockey together. But I've noticed in the last year and a half, Scott's comments have really escalated. And he's very openly tenacious. There are those in the skating world who are finding his comments refreshing, that he's not being just politically correct. When they lose, he's visibly angry. When they win, he's very excited. And he lets it be known how he feels, that he thinks that they are perhaps the better team. They're not pretending to be great friends on the ice as much as they used to be. And you just have to wonder, these teams know each other so well. When you train with someone, you know each other's strengths and weaknesses so well. Meryl and Charlie skated directly before them today. And they heard those marks, and you just have to wonder what kind plays into them. What's playing into the psyche of these competitors here. They are fierce competitors. They are athletes at the top of their game. They are hungry. They're not just going out to skate clean programs. They're going out to win. And I just wonder if really they should all stay training together. Do you see it being a healthy environment for both of these teams to stay training together? At this point, they're viewed as being neck and neck. The results are... Do you think it is going to help them just train together for next year? Do you think they each need to have their own camp in order to go for gold next year?
I think at this point, I think the results of the World Championships will tell a lot. My gut says that if Tessa and Scott get second, I would go to Igor. I don't know what happened between Marina and Igor, but I would go to another camp. I think that they were really, like you said, they were the team to beat for so many years, and I think that makes a relationship and a friendship easier, particularly if somebody has the personality that you describe of Scott, that it's easier to be friends with somebody when you feel like, okay, I'm a little bit better than them if they're a close competitor, and then once the tables turn, it's harder to keep up that relationship. Who knows, maybe they still are close friends, but I would say if they get second at the World Championships, I would seriously consider a coaching change, because mentally it's exhausting training with a close competitor like that. There's so much that goes into it that I think it may be draining. It may be difficult, particularly if you feel like you're not getting the results that you want. What do you think?
Yeah. I think you talked about something being off, and I can't help but wonder if what's off is the environment and that training together every day. They had a big coaching change. They're working with a new technician, and perhaps something is just off. There's in the dynamics. They're no longer with Igor on a daily basis, and he was thought of to be the technician. And I just wonder if there's going to be a change, because I don't believe that Tessa and Scott are going to be okay with being silver medalists after this year if that happens. I think that their short dance this year is very strong. Mm-hmm. And I was watching it, and it was more classic Tessa and Scott. They didn't take a risk like they did in the free dance, but it was smooth. It was wonderful. It was everything that everyone loves about Tessa and Scott. It was so crisp and just polished. And I don't see that in their free dance when they're trying to take a risk to step up. I wonder if both of these teams will stay together, because at the same point, I don't think that Meryl and Charlie are going to be
stay together. The teams will stay together, but I mean with the same coach, yeah.
Yes, because I don't think that Meryl and Charlie will be satisfied with being world silver medalists 2 years in a row if they are to lose the world championships, which is, I think that they've gotten to such a point where things could change again this spring, and things could get really interesting in the world of ice dance. Now, moving conversely, on the other side of the split, Madison Chock and Evan Bates were with both Marina and Igor last year, and now they've gone off with Igor, and the Shibutanis have stayed with Marina Zueva. And this has really become a bit of a rivalry, because Maya and Alex were thought of as being the second-place team in the U.S., and they were really supplanted by Madison and Evan at the national championships, rather convincingly, according to the results. So how did you compare the two teams?
What I noticed was really where I think Madison and Evan, where they stand out, is in that short dance. The dance just got me. It's so fast at the end, and they keep up with the music. It's really interesting. It really draws you in. Whereas I felt like with the Shibutanis, their free dance is really strong, probably stronger than Madison and Evan's free dance. But their short dance, I think it's not up to the level where it needs to be if they're going to challenge for that world bronze medal or, to be that second place U.S. team. I did find it interesting, though, that with how strong I felt the Madison and Evans short dance, and probably their free dance as well, their components, their scores don't really reflect that in the program component. So it does show that the judges are still willing to give, at least in that second mark, the Shibutanis the edge this season, which I think is notable. It's interesting, particularly when you consider that their short dance, I don't feel, in my opinion, is as strong as Madison and Evan. What were your impressions?
I definitely agree that the short dance is playing a huge role this season between these two teams. I think Maya and Alex have been such a polished team for so long. They're obviously siblings. They've skated together for a really long time, and they're both great technical skaters. They have smooth edges. They have gorgeous lines, but there's a problem this year. And the British commentators talked about it. And it almost seems like in skating, there's a natural order of progression. You go to your first World Championships, you finish 7th or 8th, you move up the next year a couple of spots. The third year, perhaps you compete for a medal.
Particularly in ice dancing.
Yes, that's how it's happened for many other teams. Maya and Alex were probably slotted to finish about 5th, their first year. But two teams ahead of them made mistakes in their free dance, and Alex and Maya wound up with a bronze medal at Worlds. They were visibly surprised. And it seemed like it was a great North American sweep. They all trained together. And there was almost a backlash last season. There were a lot of articles with I think, interviews of the other coaches, Alexander Julin, and several other coaches who were very critical of the fact that Marina and Igor had so much success, and it almost seemed like they had the success and now we're going to tear them down. It's like you build them up and you tear them down. And the Shibutanis were really the easiest team to tear down because they look very young and their programs were perhaps more youthful. They don't have that sexual energy that the other teams have, and they had programs that were perhaps slightly more juvenile. They are younger. Their programs were more juvenile. And Madison Chock is someone that it seems like they've always dressed her up to look older. Now, she's not that different in age from the Shibutanis, but they've always made her look older on the ice. And it seems like she is someone who Igor has a distinct vision of how he views Madison and Evan as a couple. They have interesting lifts that are visually interesting to look at. She might not be as strong of a skater as the Shibutanis, but visually, watching the programs, I'm a little bit more interested in what they are doing, even if I don't think that the quality of the skating is as good. Maya and Alex, conversely, are doing a program that they're using the same music, the missing music, that the Duchesnays used and that Torval and Dean used. Those two teams killed that music. They didn't just skate to it, it was iconic. And it seems perhaps the Duchesnays were another sibling team. There's been a lot of criticism about Maya and Alex because they are siblings and they don't have that unique factor. And I really think that it was a huge mistake to use this music for them. And I think that it is only exacerbating a problem that happened. They made mistakes at the World Championships last year, and the judges pounced on them, dropping them from 3rd place to 8th place. Then their coaches split, and then they're using this music, and they're even falling to 3rd in the US. And I think that is a huge, huge problem. They have an identity crisis. And the British commentators said that they felt like they don't know where the Shibutanis fit in the ice dance world, and they're not sure if the Shibutanis know. And I get a sense when they skate that the lack of confidence is a little bit creeping in, that they don't seem to have that same sureness. Their first year on the senior season, sometimes people have programs they believed in. You had a Chicago program that seemed like you loved and it carried you. Their free dance in 2011 was that program. They don't seem to have that this year. They don't seem to have the belief in the material. They don't seem to have the belief that if they skate well, they'll get the results. And I think it's starting to creep in and actually affect their performances. And it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy where now they're almost at a risk of, will they make the U.S. Olympic team? Will they not? There's a 4th place team who is very, very strong that is not here for continents this week. And I'm left wondering what's next for the Shibutanis. I think that they may need a coaching change. Marina Zueva is a fabulous coach, but I don't see the vision of where this team is going, and I don't know if they have the vision anymore either. They're fabulous technicians. They're wonderful skaters. I don't know where this is going. Are they going to keep falling in the ice dance world? Do they deserve to? Or do they just need a new set of eyes and a new set of ideas to really reinvent themselves for the Olympics?
It does seem like there needs to be something has to change following the World Championships, but with only a month to go, I don't see a big change happening. It seems like they just need to continue to work on these programs, really polish them. I do think, like you talk about, their short dance, it does come across a little bit juniorish. There are certain things like she's so mature looking in the free dance, but in the short dance, wearing her hair in the ponytail, I think the dress is a little bit younger. It makes them look a little bit younger. So I think there are little things that could be polished heading to the World Championships, but it does seem like you raise so many great questions that this team is going to have to ponder and really answer the summer months heading into next season if they want to make that change.
I do have one question for you. Mm-hmm. In the ice dance world, there's always the sense of there's one stem and there's a flower. And I get the sense when I watch the Shibutanis that it's almost even. You watch both of them. And when I watch Madison and Evan, my eye goes to her, or if he's lifting her in a unique way, they tend to do a lot of angular lifts. Do you think that Maya is as strong of a female lead as Maya is? I mean, I don't want to make this sound like it's the Academy Awards, but do you watch the girl more than the guy, 1? And 2, how do you think that Madison and Maya compare?
I think in terms of the stem and the flower, when it comes to the Shibutanis, she doesn't emote as much as she probably, quite frankly, should. And perhaps it's the programs we did see a couple years ago. It seemed like those programs were stronger, that your eye was drawn to her a little bit more. And I don't know. I don't know if it's because he's a stronger skater or what, but they need to find for next season a program that will really promote her personality, to find that thing inside of her that's going to come out. Because when you talk about Madison, she has that it factor. And physically, the way she holds herself, particularly in that short dance, the way she carries herself, and it seems like Evan is fine to be that stem, to kind of let her shine. And I think maybe it's a personality thing, but with Maya, she just seems a little bit more not introverted, but not as showy. Like, here I am. Like, I'm gonna. And in ice dance, you kind of have to sex it up. And I don't feel that she has that sex appeal, which makes them come across a little bit younger. How do you see it?
I agree. I think there was actually a problem. I think that Evan's former partner, Emily Samuelson, was a stronger technical skater than Madison Chock. However, conversely, I think that Madison Chock is a better presenter of the team than Emily Samuelson was.
I agree.
And he is now moving up in the dance world again. And I think it's that Tessa versus Meryl. Who did your eye go to? Who do you like better?
But the funny thing is, I don't mean to interrupt, but with Tessa, she had that kind of showy, outgoing extrovert quality, which Meryl didn't have. But they were able to really cultivate and nourish whatever they could out of Meryl. So now you see her, and she has her own unique look on the ice. And that's what I think they need to do with Maya.
I agree. So I think looking ahead to the World Championships are keys to what to watch at the 2013 World Figure Skating Championships. The impact of the Igor Marina split. We've seen some shifting happen, specifically between the Shibutanis and Chock and Bates, and I think it would be very interesting to see what happens in the future. Success too soon. Did the Shibutanis win a bronze medal too early at the World Championships, and was that a death knell to their career? 3, perfection. Is it going to take absolute perfection to win in Worlds? And will that matter?
And wrapping things up here, politics. Are politics going to come into play? We talked about that split. How is that going to impact World Championships and the results and who ends up on the medal podium?
And the Worlds are in Canada.
Right. How does the hometown advantage come into play? 4 continents equals Worlds. Dave, you talked about this earlier. Will the results here at 4 continents portend what the results will be at the end of the World Championships? And finally, the gloves are off. So does this mean that whichever team finishes second place between the 2 top teams at the World Championships, does that mean that a coaching change is in the future months, or will they continue to stay together? Only really time can tell.
And then I think looking forward, we want to touch upon the pairs. Megan Duhamel and Eric Radford won the competition at 4 continents, and they were really the standout team here. And I'm left wondering where they stand going into the World Championships. They do side-by-side triple Lutzes. They do a side-by-side triple Salchow. They also do a throw triple Lutz. And when I see their consistency and their strength over the last month, watching the European Championships, watching Velocizar and Trankov, as well as Sevchenko and Sulkowy, I'm left wondering if perhaps, unless those 2 teams are super strong, they're being outdone technically by by Duhamel and Radford. And personally, I'm curious whether or not the Duhamel and Radford might upset perhaps for a silver medal at the World Championships if the other 2 teams don't deliver as strongly as they could.
I think that's the key phrase, if the other teams don't deliver, because even here in the long program, Duhamel and Radford, they finished second. They didn't skate their best. I think really what it comes down to for them is they have to be clutch. They have to be on. They have to land all their technical elements. They have to have that wow factor. The event being in Canada, I think that could help them, having that hometown advantage. But really, if they're in the hunt for a gold medal, I think it's going to come down to the top 2 teams having some mistakes. And really, they just have to skate lights out.
Yes, and I think the Americans were 3rd and 4th here. I think going into the World Champ,
showing.
Respectable. What we expected. I think Smirka and Niram actually withdrew. We're not sure if they are still the alternates for the World Championships. Time will tell there. Perhaps Felicia Zhang and Nathan Bartholomew will actually be the alternates. We're not sure what's going to happen with Katie Denny and John Coughlin. I think it's going to be interesting to watch, and we look forward to continuing this discussion with you at the 2013 World Figure Skating Championships. I know I'm looking forward to it, and I think Jenny is as well.
Definitely am, and thank you guys for tuning in and watching. We'll be back next week with our interview posted next Wednesday, so look for that, check for that, and thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it.
And as always, hold an edge.
And look
sexy.
Bye.
Bye, guys.